Anywho, Andrew here. Welcome to the Onion Buns and welcome to this week's episode of Let's Talk Oilers. So the free agency and the draft drama have mostly ended. So we're into the lull of the summer for the most part. But there's some interesting stuff coming out. So let's talk about that. But before we get to that, here's a quick little message. Hey y'all, just a quick mention here. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment on the videos you like. It helps with the YouTube algorithm, which helps me. Takes 2 seconds. So thanks in advance. Alrighty, so we're finding out that I had said, if anyone remembers from the other video, sorry, I gotta adjust, my camera's about to fall. There we go. I had said that I always thought we should have waited to see if there was an offer sheet for Evan Bouchard and what it was. And if it was 11 million or more, take the compensation, let him walk. And I stand by that still. It's, we will never get, if we trade Evan Bouchard, we will never get that compensation or return that we would have gotten if we allowed somebody to offer sheet him at $11-12 million and walk. And I mean, if they offer sheeted him at 10.5 or 10, we could always match it. So, you know, and most teams are going to offer 2 years minimum. So really no difference between 2 and 4 at this point, at this stage. So yeah, it's coming out now that Carolina was very interested in offer sheeting Bouchard. So I honestly do feel that it would have been in the Oilers' best interest to at least see what the offer sheet was. You know, how much were they offering? And then go with it from there. It's like, again, if it was 11 or more million dollars, then let him walk because we'll never get that return for Evan Bouchard. And yeah, so that's where I stand on that. But, you know, they didn't want to do that. And I think they panicked, honestly. I think they panicked after last year when Holloway and, God, I can't even remember his name now, got offer sheeted. So, you know, they panicked that it was going to happen again. But the Holloway and the other, those were lower end deals. So the compensation on those really wasn't very good, to be honest. I think we got a couple second round picks and a third round pick out of it all, you know, so it was garbage compensation. With a $11-12 million offer sheet, we're talking multiple first round draft picks. You know, I believe the 12 million would have came in at 4 first round draft picks, you know, and, you know, Carolina, okay, they're a middle of the road. So it's not going to be like maybe if San Jose had tried to offer sheet Bouchard, then we'd be looking at 4 like top 10 first round picks. With Carolina, probably be top 20-ish in that area. But yeah, I think the Oilers panicked. The idea of losing another young defenseman to an offer sheet and then there's the media pressure here because the media, I mean, Bouchard is a media darling. I don't know why. I really don't know. I don't understand it. I really don't. But he is. So it is what it is. We have Evan Bouchard for 4 years. I still haven't heard if it included a no trade clause, but I'm pretty sure it probably did. So we're stuck with him for 4 years. What I was reading an article though, and it got me laughing. I'm just going to read here. Okay, so this is from Oiler Nation. Over the last 4 years, Bouchard has emerged as one of the NHL's premier offensive defensemen. That's true. He's a one-dimensional offensive defenseman. Nobody, absolutely nobody, contradicts his offensive prowess. His problem is his defense. They talk about his points, whatever. We all know what they are. Okay. Last week, Bouchard said he wants to become a more consistent defensive player. well, thumbs up. If he wants to become a defensive player and he's dedicated to becoming a defensive player, then that's a huge thumbs up from me. Unfortunately, I don't believe him because of what he continues to say over the length of his deal. I think definitely that's a big thing, Bouchard said. I think over the past season or two, I've really focused on the defensive side of things, especially later on in the season, come playoff time. That's the most important thing, to keep the puck out of the net. He stunk defensively over the last 2 years. I'm sorry. There's no other way to say it. He stunk defensively. He turned over the puck. He continued to make soft passes up the middle of our zone that always get picked off and more often than not end up in our net. His version of blocking a puck when on the PK is going like this, making himself as small as humanly possible. That's not how you block a shot. The concept of blocking a shot is make yourself as big as possible so the puck hits you. That drives me absolutely insane. He refuses to push anyone out of the front of the net. Like, he will not play physical. So I don't know where he's getting this idea that he's been working on his defensive game, because his defensive game literally stinks. He was the worst defenseman on the Oilers defensively. Up here, he was the best Oiler. Offensively, he was the worst Oiler defensively. So I don't get where he says he's working on his defense. And then again, as I said in the last video, I saw an interview with him where they asked him point blank about his defensive liabilities. And his reply was, I can play defense when I feel like it. That's not an acceptable reply. That's not an acceptable answer. So I'm going to repeat what I said last week. At $10.5 million, I expect, as a fan, that he busts his ass 84 games a season. There's no more of this taking little break. I don't feel like it. I don't really have the jam today. No, that's none of that. You bust your ass every single game of the season. If you turn over a puck, and you will turn over the puck, everybody does. If you turn over the puck, you bust your ass to get that puck back. You don't coast. How many times last year did we see him just coasting? Not skating hard, just coasting. And again, I said it last week. From everything I've heard, Evan Bouchard is one of the best skaters out there when he wants to. This seems to be the problem, is mentally he checks out and he doesn't want to put in the effort, put in the work. It's like, no, Ekholm will come and cover for me. So that's all okay, cool. And Ekholm does most of the time until he's injured. And then we saw what happened in the final season or final series of the playoffs last year. Ekholm couldn't do it and Bouchard wasn't working. He has to start clearing the front of the net. And this is for all of the defense on the Oilers, not just Bouchard. They all have to start clearing the front of the net. That is their job. In the defensive zone, clear the front of the net. Don't let the guy stand there to get the rebound. Move him out of the way. Tie him up. Give our goalies a freaking chance. Like, everyone hates on Skinner. And I've said I think Skinner's an above average goalie. He's not a star goalie. I don't even think he's a starter. I think he's an excellent backup goalie, is what I think Stuart Skinner is. But I don't blame him or Pickard for the finals, because the team played like crap in front of them. Nobody was getting cleared out of the net. Florida was allowed to redirect every puck they wanted at will because nobody was clearing the front of the net. Nobody was tying up the players. It's all of our defense has to do it, but Bouchard especially, because he is now the top paid defenseman on the team. Last year, you could point at Nurse. Like, I think Darnell Nurse is an excellent defenseman, and I have no problem with his his $9.25 million. It's a little overpayment by about $1 million. These people that quote $5 to $7 million, they're out to lunch. They don't have a frickin' clue. Darnell Nurse is a elite two-way defenseman. The problem is he's not been allowed to play as an elite two-way defenseman. They keep trying to change his game and then saying, well, why aren't you doing this and this and this? And it's like, that's not his game. Darnell is an excellent elite two-way defenseman. So he's good on offense, and we've seen that when you give him the chance to be good on offense, which Knobloch never does. So anyone that bitches about Darnell's offense, I just tune out. I absolutely tune out. Anyone that says, oh, Darnell's got to be 100% defensive, Bob Stauffer, I tune out. Because they're talking shit like idiots. Plain and simple. Darnell's game is two-way defenseman. He's good on offense. He's very good defensively, but he's not Ekholm defensively. Matthias Ekholm is up here. Darnell's about here defensively, and Bouchard's way down here defensively. But this is what Nurse brings to the table. You know, Darnell is a great penalty killer. We see that all the time. He really is. And from all reports from all his teammates, he is one of the locker room leaders. Darnell checks 4 boxes. Evan Bouchard checks 1. So now that Evan's the top paid defenseman on the Oilers, he's got to check 4 boxes, or 5 actually. And I don't see that happening. I really don't. I think next year he's going to do what he did last year. He's going to be offensive. He's going to turn the puck over. He's not going to back check properly. He's not going to clear out the front of the net. He's going to lose board battles. And he's not going to block shots when Knobloch puts him on the PK. And let's be honest, Evan Bouchard should never see the ice on the PK. It should never happen. Or when we have a lead in the final minute of a game and the other team's pulled their goalie, so it's 6-on-5, Evan Bouchard should never see the ice. That's not his game. His game is offense. You know, I've been saying it for a few years now that I really do believe we should utilize Bouchard like we did Tyson Barrie. Third pairing, 5-on-5, power play specialist. I think that would be Evan's biggest wheelhouse, and I think that would be where he gets the most success. But the Oilers are intent on trying to turn him into a number 1 defenseman, which I don't think he ever will be, honestly. You know, I don't go by analytics. The best quote I heard last year was Rob Brown, when Bob Stauffer was his analytics, and Rob Brown just cut him off and said, analytics is for losers. Watch the game. Judge what happens during the game. Don't tell me the stats. Watch the game. That's how I judge these players. I watch the games. When you screw up, I say you screw up. I don't care what the analytics say. You screwed up. Simple as that. Watch the game. You know, I swear to God, I think the mass majority of the people that yammer nonstop about analytics don't even watch the games. They don't. You know, like last year, there was, I know I go off on Stauffer, but he drives me nuts with his Bouchard love. I'm watching the game, and Darnell, and here's another thing. I don't think Darnell and Bouchard should ever be on the ice together. Bouchard needs a stay-at-home, elite defensive defenseman. Darnell is not a stay-at-home elite defensive defenseman. He is an elite two-way defenseman. Their styles don't mix. They clash, actually. So anyway, this was Bouchard and Nurse were on the ice together. Nurse was over on the boards with his player that he is supposed to be covering, and he was covering. Bouchard's standing in front of the net, you know, not covering anyone, and the man he's supposed to be covering gets the puck and scores. And Stauffer, no word of a lie, went off for 2 minutes on blaming Nurse for being over on the boards. Didn't mention Bouchard, not once. And it's like, come on. You know, it's just ridiculous, the bias of the Edmonton media promoting Bouchard and ragging on Nurse so that all the no-minds rag on Nurse, you know. So anyway, Evan Bouchard is saying that he wants to improve his defense, which thumbs up. If he seriously wants to improve his defense, I'm all in, and I applaud him for doing it. But if he's going to try to claim he's been working on it for 2 years, I'm going to call bullshit, plain and simple, because we've seen him make the exact same mistakes over and 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 etc., etc., etc. If you're working on your defense, you're cleaning up those mistakes. And I have seen no evidence of that at all. So anyway, that was that one. A more interesting one to me is Darnell and Adam Henrique declined to waive their no trade clauses, and I don't blame them at all. If the team is going to give them a no trade clause, then why should they give it up? I said the same thing about Jeff Skinner last year. Like, what Knobloch did to Skinner was disgusting. Let's be honest. I'm not even a Jeff Skinner fan. Okay, I question signing him because he had no playoff experience. He always played on Buffalo, which, sorry, I don't think playing on a perennial loser like Buffalo is really all that valuable to a team that wants to go to the Stanley Cup final and win. I eat a bit of crow on that because I thought in the Stanley Cup final, Skinner was actually one of our best players because at least he was trying. There was effort there. I mean, I watched the rest of the guys, and after game 2, there just seemed to be no effort out there. No oomph, no passion. So, so Jeff Skinner at least gave us passion. So I didn't blame Skinner last year when he declined to get rid of his no trade clause at the trade deadline either, because no, Don Block played stupid games with him all season long, benching him, putting him in the press box when he was not the problem and he was actually giving us decent efforts, I didn't blame Skinner, and I didn't blame Darnell Nurse or Adam Henrique, because the team gave them no trade clauses. They asked for no trade clauses when they signed. The team gave them no trade clauses. So why should they give them up? That's on the team. That's not on the player. We all want the team to get better, but part of the team getting better is the management making smarter choices. It really is. Under Holland, I actually liked Holland as a GM, except for the no trade clauses. He handed them out like Halloween candy. And we all knew that was going to come back and bite us in the ass. And it did. It did. Now, I don't want Darnell traded anyway. I just want Knobloch to start utilizing Darnell the way that benefits how Darnell plays. Like, I don't think that's too much to ask. Darnell, we know what Darnell's strengths are. Utilize those strengths. Quit trying to get him to become a completely different player at this stage of his career, because it's not going to happen. And it's not just Darnell, it's any player. They don't go from this style to this style. So I don't blame them for not waiving it. And apparently the team asked him, and Nurse and Henrique said no. Now, Henrique's in his final year, so I think he'll be gone at the end of this year. Darnell has 2 more seasons with a full no movement clause, and then after that, it's down to he submits 10 teams he's willing to go to for the remainder of his contract. So, moving him won't be that easy even after 2 seasons, because he's going to select perennial winners. He's not going to select the lowbie teams. So, you're not going to be trading him to the San Jose's or the Anaheims or the Ottawas or the Montreals or the Columbus, the entire metropolitan division this year. He's not going to those teams. He will be picking the 10 top teams and saying, these are the teams I want to go to. It is what it is. But again, I don't want to see Nurse. I love what Nurse brings to our team. I just want to see Knobloch utilizing it properly. And I know that's unpopular with some of the no-minds out there that just rag on Nurse nonstop. It's absolutely exhausting. So anyway, that's what's going on there. Here's the dangers of social media is you never know what's true with some of these sites. So I was scrolling through my Facebook feed the other day, and I saw a article or post from a Facebook site claiming that the Oilers donated their playoff bonus money to the Texas flood funds for those affected by the flood. If that was true, that would be awesome. Sadly, there is absolutely, I did some checking. There's no evidence that this happened. So it sounds like this is just one of those sites that made up a story because they thought it would get them clicks. And that sucks because, I mean, I would love to hear more sports people and not even hockey players, because even though hockey players are paid huge, they're borderline poverty compared to baseball and basketball and football players. So I would love, honestly, to hear about baseball, basketball, and football players being more altruistic with stuff like this. You know, it's like I talked about Evander Kane a couple of weeks ago. He did his charity for underprivileged kids, and he did it out of his own pocket. You know, and to me, that's such a class act. The team eventually did get involved, but at first it was Evander Kane that did this. And I think this is what we need from more sports people, because these guys are paid millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. And, you know, in baseball, it's getting closer to the billion mark now. And they should be given back more. I really do believe this. You know, you are paid to play a game, so give back more. It shouldn't just be organized by the teams and the organizations and they fund everything and you're just the face doing it. Like years ago, George Clooney came out and he said, by donating my time to a telethon, I am supporting these charities. No, you're paid $20-30 million for a movie. How about you send 10% of that to the charity? You know, an hour here or two of FaceTime is meaningless to me. It really is. Don't tell me you're some altruistic charity person when all you do is donate an hour or two here or there to the FaceTime. I want to see you donate some of these riches that you are so privileged to get. So anyway, sadly, every attempt to validate that claim has come up empty. So I'm going to lean on the side that it didn't happen. Yeah. It was a feel-good story, but I think the story was more about clicks for that site than anything else. So, yeah, that kind of sucks, but what can you do? This is the age we live in. Now, the story that is true and everybody in Oilerland is going to be cheering, hallelujah, is Dustin Swartz is no longer the Edmonton Oilers goalie coach. If there's been a single person with a bigger target on their name over the last, I'm going to say 5 years now, I don't know who it is. It's not even Bouchard. It's not Nurse. It's been Dustin Swartz. And I mean, some of it is unfair and some of it is very fair. I don't think he made goalies better. I don't think that he made them worse. I just don't think he made them better. And the one thing I noticed of all the goalies under him is they all go down super easy. And all of our goalies, from Mike Smith to Stuart Skinner to Calvin Pickard to, all of them, they're all scored high. Now, I know I've talked about this. This is a league trend. And it's something I feel the Oilers are very lacking in addressing with their shooters. Is every goalie in the league plays the bottom of the net now, which leaves open the top of the net. But for some godforsaken reason, our shooters always try to score low. And I really do think that hurts our offense in clutch period times. I don't think Bobrovsky was really all that amazing in the final. I just think the Oilers made him look amazing because every shot was to the bottom 25% of the net. Every time they went high, we seemed to score. It's just we didn't go high often. But that's league wide. But our goalies seem to suffer that really badly too. And Swartz, to the best of my knowledge, never addressed that with any of them. He never worked on it. He's just like, okay, cover the bottom of the net, cover the bottom. So we need a goalie coach that can get these guys making the saves to the top of the net, because, that, let's face it, that's Stuart Skinner. His glove is his weakness. He needs a goalie coach that's working on his glove. I'm reminded of Devin Dubnyk. Dubnyk, his second last season with us, he had a career year. And then McTavish absolutely threw him under the bus and embarrassed the hell out of him at the draft by putting on a spectacle, there's no other way to put it, when he didn't get Schneider from Vancouver. He was trying to sign Schneider to replace Dubnyk, and Schneider signed with New Jersey, and for less than what the Oilers had offered, apparently. And McTavish threw an absolute hissy fit on the floor in front of the cameras, and you just knew that Dubnyk was seeing this, and it destroyed his confidence. And that's what happened. Is Dubnyk came back the next season after having a career season. He came back and he had his worst season ever. He had no confidence. The team in front of him absolutely blew chunks defensively. It was absolutely brutal to watch. And Dubnyk got traded, and, he went to Nashville. He didn't do any better in Nashville because, he still had no confidence. He needed to build back that confidence. Then he went to Montreal, and he begged off. He said, I'm not going to the AHL, just let me go. And that's what they did. And during that off season, he worked with a goalie coach of his choosing on tracking the puck, because he highlighted that his biggest weakness was his puck tracking, and Swartz never worked on it with him. So he signed with Arizona as a backup, and he was spectacular. And they traded him to Minnesota at the trade deadline. They got a killer deal for him because he had been that good, because he had taken it upon himself to work on his weakness. And then the rest is history. In Minnesota, he was a top 5 goalie in this league until he retired. So that could have been our goalie if not for Craig McTavish. But anyway, that's days gone by now. And that's what I see with our goalies now, is Swartz doesn't make them better. He doesn't seem to work on what they're weak on. He just works on position. This is what I want you to do. This is how I want you to play. Cover the bottom of the net. But where they're weak on, like with Skinner on his glove's never improved. So we need to get a goalie coach who will work on the goalie's weaknesses. And maybe if we get a goalie coach that can actually work on Skinner and his glove, maybe he does become that starter. It's possible. We just need a goalie coach that will work on the weakness, because, in my opinion, Dustin Schultz never did, or Swartz never did. He never did. I don't know how he managed to stick around for so long, but he just repeated the same thing every year. And so anyway, he has been let go. Jason Gregor released an article. For the first time in over a decade, the Edmonton Oilers will have a new goalie coach. Dustin Swartz, who was hired in November 2014, will not return for a 12th season. His contract expired this last week on June 30th, and the Oilers have decided to not sign him to an extension. Okay, here we go. If the Oilers are only looking for a goalie coach, here are some of the names I'm hearing they have spoken to, and some I think they should. Stephen Waite. He won 2 cups with Chicago and spent many years with Carey Price in Montreal. He's been out of the league for a few years, but I was told he'd like to get back in. Mackenzie Skapski. He's currently the Flames AHL goalie coach. He is a disciple of Benoit Allaire, and he worked closely with Dustin Wolf. He is highly regarded, and his name came up from all 4 goalie people I spoke to. Sylvain Rodrigue. He was with the organization before. He worked with Skinner in Bakersfield. He is currently in Florida, and I was told the Oilers have or are hoping to interview him. Jeff Salico is the Oiler goalie scout. He has previous NHL experience as goalie coach with Detroit. He ran the development camp this past week and will be in the mix. Pete Aubry has been in NCAA the past few years, but he also worked in Chicago AHL team. I've heard he'll be interviewed. Marco Marcinio is another name that kept coming up. He's highly touted and working in Laval with Montreal's AHL team. His name kept coming up. Dan Stewart is the St. Louis Blues AHL coach. He worked his way up from the OHL to U Sport and the past 5 seasons in the AHL. So I honestly don't know any of these names. I can't add anything to it. That's what Gregor said, and I'll take Gregor at his word on it because I've never heard any of these names. But again, as I said last week, I don't follow the AHL and I don't follow the development all that closely anymore. I used to when I was younger, but I don't now. So anyway, you can cheer. Dustin Swartz will not be back with the Oilers, and we'll see if that makes a difference or not. So this one's interesting. The LA Kings signed Codi Ceci for 4 years at $4.5 million a year. Now, I love Codi Ceci, and I thought he got a bad rap in Edmonton. I don't think he was nearly as bad as what some of the Oiler faithful made him out to be, but he's not a $4.5 million player anymore. He's just not, especially over a 4-year term. That's absolutely insane. I don't know what Holland is doing in LA, but hey, I wish Codi all the best luck in the world. And I don't blame him for a second for jumping at that chance. But wow, is that a massive overpayment? Just stellar overpayment. So yeah, I that one surprised the hell out of me. So I saved the best for last. We have 2 new players. Andrew Mangiapane and Curtis Lazar have both signed with the Edmonton Oilers. Mangiapane has signed for 2 years at $3.6 million a season. The plan is to put him in the top 6. And I mean, he should have enough skill for that, but we'll see. I've seen a couple different things where they say that he's going to play with McDavid, but I think he should probably be with Leon, honestly, because McDavid has a healthy hymen, and I know the talk is putting RNH down to the 3rd line center, but my gut feeling is RNH is going to find his way back up beside McDavid, because they've tried that 3rd line center for RNH before, and he always finds his way back up. Whereas what I've read for Leon, that leaves Podkolzin, who's not a top 6 player. I like Podkolzin, but he's not a top 6 player. And then the other one I see is they're going to put Savoy there, and I don't think that's going to fly. So I think Mangiapane will find his way into the top 6, and I think he should be with Leon. And then up with Connor, Mangiapane and Podkolzin with Leon, that sounds like it could work. Though personally, just my personal preference, I would prefer Mangiapane, Leon, and Trent Frederick together. That's my personal opinion, but that would be my setup. So we'll see. They got to do some... The thing that's annoyed me about the projected lineups is they don't have Noah Phillips anywhere. Now, I don't think Phillips is going to clear waivers. If they try to send him to the farm, he's gone. I don't think he clears waivers this year. And if they don't give him, as I said in the last video, if they don't give him 30-game tryout on the big team, he only signed a 1-year contract. If they don't give him that 30-game tryout this year, and I'm talking 30 consecutive games, not 5 here, then you go down, then 6 over here, and then you go down, and then another 3 over here, and then you go down. If Knobloch tries to do that again, I guarantee you Noah Phillips walks at the end of the season to a new team. Why would you stay if you're not going to get a legitimate opportunity? So there's some questions, and we'll have to see. I mean, this is all just projections, so it could come and go. Lazar is a good bottom 6 player, probably a 4th line player. And, he brings a lot of what we do need in our bottom 6. So that was a good signing. 1 year at $775K. So definitely not an overpayment. You know, he's coming off an injury-ridden season last year, so he is basically this year's Connor Brown, you know, or this year's Jeff Skinner, for that matter. You know, both were coming off serious injuries, so both needed to come in on the cheap for one season. But apparently him and Mangiapane both had much higher offers from other teams, and they both chose the Oilers despite the lower offer. So, you know, if he can fill out our bottom six, because we need some grit in our bottom six. It's that simple. So, yeah, I'm quite happy with those two signings. I wanted to talk about, before I get to this, there was a trade today, just as I was getting ready to make this video. The Oilers get Isaiah Howard, and we lose Sam O'Reilly. They're both first-round picks. Sam O'Reilly was with us last year, and he was a decent enough player, but the Stoffers and the Gregors all predicted him to possibly make the team next year. So, you know, he was still a unknown potential. Whereas this Isaiah Howard, I don't really know anything about him, other than apparently he was the Hobey Baker winner last year. So the best collegiate player out there, and so we'll see. It's potential for potential, and we'll see how that works out. But it's a minor league. I think both of them would have been on the minor league this year, so it's not a big deal. Other thing I wanted to mention, drafted by the Brantford Bulldogs in the OHL. This isn't Oilers stuff. This is OHL, but you got to hear the stats on this guy. This guy, this jumps out at you. 7 foot tall, 273 pounds. Moldovan defender Alexander Karmanov, drafted by the Brampton Bulldogs in the OHL. Wow, is that a monster? You know, and that's OHL, so he's 18, 19 years old? He hasn't even finished growing. That's a freaking monster. You know, I think he's bigger than Zdeno Chara was. You know, so I don't know what he plays like or anything. I saw this come across and I just went, wow, that's monstrous. The last thing I wanted to mention is the Edmonton Oilers preseason schedule. Has been announced. September 21st versus Calgary. September 21st, it's a split roster game, one in Calgary, one in Edmonton on the September 21st. September 23rd against Winnipeg, in Winnipeg. September 24th in Edmonton versus Seattle. September 26th in Edmonton versus Winnipeg. September 28th in Edmonton versus Vancouver. October 1st at Seattle. And then October 3rd at Vancouver. And that's our preseason. It's less preseason games because they've added 2 regular season games to the regular season this season. So that's our preseason schedule. Now it's all in conference, and you know what? That's good. We don't need to go out of conference for preseason. So hopefully it's enough time to see what we have. That's my only concern, but is what it is. So anyway, that's this week's Let's Talk Oilers. There was actually more this week than I thought there would be. I thought it would pretty much dry up after last week's draft and free agency. So anyway, if you like the video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow the channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders, and I do appreciate it. Always feel free to leave a comment. Not only does it get us interacting and communicating, but it really does help me with the YouTube algorithm. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.